And welcome to The Harvest, a series of conversations for the future of cotton. My name is Courtney Lockemer. I'm the brand manager for Solid State Clothing, and today we're visiting Opportunity Threads in Morganton, North Carolina. Here we have Eric Henry, CEO and president of Solid State Clothing and TS Designs, and soon we'll be meeting Molly Hemstreet, founder and general manager of Opportunity Threads, and Walter Vicente, plant manager of Opportunity Threads. So I want to go ahead and invite everyone attending to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining from. All right, a little bit about our session today. So the Harvest is part of 10,000 Pounds of Cotton, a project of Solid State Clothing and TS Designs to source cotton directly from a North Carolina farmer at a fair price and make it into premium t-shirts entirely in North and South Carolina. This series is part of our commitment to transparency, which means letting you meet each part of the supply chain, learn more about what each company does, and have the opportunity to ask them questions. So in case you didn't know, it takes 7 different steps in businesses to make a t-shirt. Over the last few months, we've discussed growing cotton with farmer Andrew Burleson, ginning at Rolling Hills Gin, spinning cotton into yarn at the Spun Lab division of Parkdale Mills, knitting yarn into fabric at Contempora Fabrics, and last month we were learning about fabric finishing at Carolina Cotton Works. And if you want to catch up with any of those sessions, if you missed them, you can look up TS Designs YouTube channel either by going to tsdesigns.com or just looking for TS Designs on YouTube. All right, so what we are going to do here is a tour with Walter and Molly. And while we get ready to do that, Eric Henry is going to give you a quick overview of why we created the 10,000 Pounds of Cotton project.
Eric, you're on mute.
How's that now? Works. Okay, I got 2 mute buttons here. So thank you, Rosalinda. And thank you, Courtney, again, for kicking us off to our 6th cotton conversation, something that started back in November of last year. And today we're, again, as Courtney said, we're Opportunity Threads in Morganton, North Carolina for the cut and sew process. And then next month we're at TS Designs to see how stuff gets garment dyed. But again, I want to thank those people that are here for the first time, and those have been here for all the steps we started again back in, I believe, November of last year. And I'm hoping what will come from this is really underlying the importance of not only domestic manufacturing, but domestic manufacturing in a transparent supply chain. Because we do live in a world of where most of our apparel is still made overseas and in a very opaque supply chain. And I have numerous conversations about, as we come out of COVID, we have an opportunity to rebuild apparel supply chain that's domestic, that's equitable, that's transparent, and that's resilient. But it's going to take people like you and I to go out there and demand that we want this. And please, 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 let's do not go back to where we've been. A global apparel supply chain that chases cheap, usually unsustainable cheap labor. And then we end up with situations like last year with COVID and the breakdown of that. But then just recently, since the last time we met, look what happened in the Suez Canal. $10 billion a day were lost due to one part of the supply chain got clogged up. And now we hear about what's happening now, the cotton coming from China. We keep making the same mistakes because we get focused on price and we forget about the people that make our apparel. And we are so fortunate in the Carolinas because we can grow, process, and manufacture. And the purpose of the 10K Cotton Project is to start that journey with the most important person in the supply chain, the cotton farmer, Andrew Burleson in New London, North Carolina. And we have the ability, because we have these assets in the Carolinas, to literally go dirt to shirt in 500 miles in a completely transparent supply chain. And so we need your support. And the whole purpose of this cotton conversation is connect the people that make this happen. The farmer, the ginner, the spinner, the knitter, the finisher, and number 6 today, the cut and sew with Molly and Walter at Opportunity Threads. So I assume they're somewhere out in the plant getting ready. So that the next step is I'm going to hand it off to them. They're going to do a walkthrough and show exactly what's happening there. Again, our fabric's not here yet. I think everything runs slower in COVID time. It's in the pipeline. Matter of fact, that yarn is now at Contemporary being knit. But anyway, we'll connect back in this room with Molly and Walter, and again, take your questions and your thoughts or input about, this next step of cut and sew. So again, I'm going to kick it back to Courtney, who I hope is somewhere on the other side of this wall out in the plant. Are you out there, Miss Courtney? Or I will have to entertain you till she gets online. So I see.
All right.
Okay.
Are you ready, Eric?
So I'm going back to mute. Thank you, Courtney.
Hold on. Let me turn my volume up. All right. Can you hear us?
Yes, you're good.
Great. All right. So go ahead and introduce yourselves, Molly and Walter.
Can y'all hear us okay? We'll talk. We'll try to talk loud so that we know we're in the back of the machines working. I'm Molly Hemstreet, and I helped found Opportunity Threads. And
I'm Walter Vicente. I'm the plant manager and co-ownership.
All right. Eric, give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Okay. Then we're going to keep going.
yeah, so I'm going to let you follow Walter. He's going to be your tour guide as we try to do a little bit of a plant tour. We bought this building 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
And we're 30,000 square feet. It was an old factory, and I'm going to turn it over there to Walter.
So basically, I'm just gonna give you guys a little tour. So we have 2 sides. This is our main first side. We upcycle t-shirts, and we upcycle about 70,000 t-shirts weekly. I can just walk you through our process and talk a little bit about each station that we have for t-shirts. So as you can see, boxes here. So we get about 2,000 boxes weekly. These are all t-shirts that would end up in the landfill, but we have this unique project that we upcycle in t-shirt blanket. So the first process would be our check-in station, where the person would check the orders in as they come in. She would create a checklist for it, for each process. And after that, we have a session what is called a cross check-in to make sure that there's no any custom work, anything that needs to be done, any special requests that the customer have asked. So this session would do that. And then as you can see, we also recycle all the boxes, 2 gailers of boxes. We get about 3 of these every day. And then we go down here. So the next station would be the t-shirts they get counted. So they're to make sure that the customer sends the correct amount of t-shirts. You can see all these pages. They're all t-shirts that are ready to be processed. And and then I just want to mention that our this is the company name where we work with, we contract with. This is the company that created this project that upcycle the t-shirt project Repat. That's the name of the company that we work with. And then as we go down here, so next session would be so we have an embroidery machine. Some customer want to have add like a quote on the back of their the t-shirt blanket. So this would come right here, and or they want to upload photo to your blanket. So this is the photo upload machine, and then the custom embroidered machine. And then I just want to see, I want to show you guys that this is what I just talked about, the recycled t-shirt that we just got cut. It's getting ready to be recycled all the way down. There's like 5 cutter machines that we use, and then just imagine this would end up in the landfill. But I mean, we have this project that we try to keep them off the landfill, and then we recycle those t-shirts.
So we started out of this a second cooperative called Material Return, which TS Designs also is part of that. So we're able to take up all the textile waste out of our network, and we're able now to make it into yarn. So we're upcycling, we are then repurposing, and then we're creating true circularity. And we will be able to do that with the t-shirts too for the 10,000-pound project. Any cutting scraps that come off our cutting floor, we'll be able to gather those, aggregate them, and put them back into the raw material stream. So we always see our waste stream as our raw material stream. And that's something that we're able to do domestically.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. So yeah, the next process would be the layout of the t-shirt. You can see, we can point this out. We have this table, we would lay them out and try to mix them up, mix the colors up so the colors don't, be all together. And you can see that. And then we have like 5 tables. We call it the sign-on table. That would be the next process. And then if you come down here, you go. And then after that, it would go to sewing. This is our sewing team. So it would start from there. So all sewing. Then after that, I can show you the final process, like a quality control process. I can show you what we're doing. That's one of the upcycle t-shirt blanket that's been completed, and it's been QC. Those 2. You can get closer. Okay. I can see this one. North Dakota. So yeah, that's kind of what we do, and I don't know if it can be done.
Yeah, so let's look at, so this kind of one, what we call like a work cell, where we're doing upcycling. We're now going to take you to the other side of our plant, where we're doing mainly organic. This is where the t-shirts will be sewn, and we're going to take you over there to our next kind of side of where we're doing customized production for brands like Solid State. Yeah.
So basically, this is the other side of our plant where we work on small projects, like all kind of different projects that we have. And then the first one I want to show you guys is what we call, it's called a veggie bag. You see that veggie bag? So you can put your vegetables and in here and put them in the fridge, so it would last,
And I'll just as also show you that this is neat. This is cotton from the Cotton Cooperative out of Texas. I know that Eric works really closely with those folks. It's all made, spun, finished right here in North Carolina. We cut and sew it, and this goes all over the US. And what we love about these products is we don't want to just make any product, but this is a product that's good for the environment. This company also profit shares with our company. we have a project in Guatemala, so they take a percentage of their profit and put it into our projects in Guatemala through the foundation that our co-op has started. So really thinking about people, planet, and profits, they're phenomenal, just like Solid State is. They're a phenomenal partner in what we're doing. And we've really scaled up for them. We also save all of their waste so that it can also be put into true circularity as well.
Okay. Next one would be so working on t-shirts, so they're
This is another North Carolina-based t-shirt company, very similar to what we'll be doing with Solid State. You can see Silvestra. Hola, Silvestra and Alberto. They're phenomenal sewers. They'll tag team a good order of, 5 to 1,000 shirts. So we don't want to just overproduce. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do with Solid State too. It's not overproduction, but producing just enough to create a really high quality product. And then also providing end of life solutions for these products at the end. So this is, again, a lot of what the t-shirts will be looking like. You can kind of walk that way. Again, we're saving all. These aren't trash cans, they're really, we're saving everything.
We're starting to work with Valdez Weavers. You can see all those pillows inserts that we have, all these cards. So we saw a lot of pillows. We started to sell a lot of pillows for Valdez Weavers. I think they have one that they're on that table. We can show them one.
Yeah, the neat thing about Valdez Weaver, so they're here in our community. They're also an employee-owned company. We're an employee-owned company. We'll be able, all of that is woven. There's the largest weaving mill in our hemisphere. We'll be doing the custom sewing. We'll be able to keep their scraps, turn that into complete circularity as well. But again, customized things, not overproduction, but a lot of customized to order projects is what we're making on this side of our plant. They're a great partner as well.
We go to our quality control table.
A lot of these sewers, we don't really have like Walter's the plant manager, but you can see people are very self-governed on how they know what their goals are. They'll work as teams. It's a relatively calm, very calm environment. There's not anybody kind of over anybody telling them exactly what to do, although they're working as teams to get that production done. So they are producing, but it's a very calm environment and everybody's pulling together in the same direction. This is one of the really beautiful.
One of the pillows for Valdez Weavers pillows. You can see.
So again, the kind of the epitome of U.S. production, all made right here within like 15 miles. And we're hoping maybe we can get more and more of their yarn coming from domestic sources as well. That's our cotton project, right, Eric? Keeping me straight on all our projects.
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much what we do. I mean, we have more, we have about 34 clients to work with. So yeah, we do all kind of projects with them, small projects. Yeah. So that's pretty much what we do. And
can you just tell them briefly before we go back and do a little bit more in depth about the second shift? I think that's really unique about how we're trying to get a new generation interested in this work, because there's a lot of demand for it, but there's not a lot of interest on workers being part of the textile industry because I think of what the story it's been and the unfair labor practices. So maybe you can talk a little bit about second shift.
So yeah, right, currently we have about 12 students that work second shift. So they come in from 4 to 10. They work 4 to 6 hours, it depends. And there are 12, and they're all in second shift. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to help students, try to get them ready for the future. And then we're so excited to have that shift for them, just for students, high school students. So yeah, that's what we're
excited about. A lot of those folks are trying to help support their families. This is a great way. They're making double what they were when some of their other jobs. So we're excited to have them and just have another generation that's interested in this work. So
Great.
I think we're good. Yeah.
All right,
Unless that generated any questions, we're happy to field questions if that's helpful.
we can take them back there.
Okay.
So we're gonna switch it back to here while they're heading back up to the, I guess their conference room. Again, thank you so much. Walter and Molly did a great job. And again, the whole purpose of the Cotton Conversation is not only have people tell you about what they do, but we're excited when we have the bandwidth to be able to go in the facility so you can see the work being done. And I like to say there's a lot happens from that cotton in the field to the finished product. It takes a lot of people, a lot of talent, and we have it all here in the Carolinas. So again, what we have an opportunity to do with your support is we can build those jobs back in our community. So they're going to come back up in this room. I'm going to step out. Hopefully everybody's getting their COVID shots. I get my second one next week. So hopefully by the time we come to TS Design next month, we'll start getting rooms and mask off and stuff. So again, thank you so much. And I'm going to turn this camera over to Miss Molly. Warmed up the seat for you.
Oh, good. We'll do the switcheroo.
That's right.
And the demasking.
Yeah.
Right. Very good.
So you look here, but that's
Okay.
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back. Thank you all for joining us on that tour. And thank you so much, Molly and Walter. That was really great. I've had the advantage of being here before, so I've seen that. And it's really fascinating and it's really wonderful what you're doing with recycling and circularity. I'm going to ask a couple of questions and then we're going to hop into questions in the chat. So I am going to do my best to monitor and refer your questions over. So let me see here. So pulling up my questions. All right, so tell us a little bit about the history of Opportunity Threads and how you've gotten to where you are now.
Sure. So I grew up in this community, born and raised, had the opportunity to go away to college, but came back to teach in the public school system. But at that time, I know this is where our stories are so intertwined with other folks like TS Designs. That's when NAFTA had hit, and it hit our community really hard as well, because these folks are also makers in the textile industry. We had lost about 40,000 jobs. We had upwards of 17% unemployment. So when I was teaching in the public school system, it's just really hard to be a teacher when families have such, there's just kind of the economic foundation has been pulled out from under them. So I became really interested in what does rebuilding our communities look like? And I became interested in how do we create that wealth that's rooted. We talk a lot about rooting wealth here. Because what happened is, a few people owned these companies and they left, and it left hundreds and hundreds of people without work. So what is the reverse of that? While still knowing that there's this amazing infrastructure and hundreds of years of knowledge here. So I became interested in this idea of employee ownership. So at least if the companies left or they were bought out, that money would stay in our communities in the hands of the workers. And I didn't really know what I was doing at all, but I was encouraged by a really good friend and mentor named Frank Adams to just try and start a plant. And so in that case, some of the workers that I knew, which are many of the wonderful community from the Mayan Guatemalan community that have a deep, rich history of textiles. And I'd love for you to, Walter sitting here, he can tell a little bit of his own story about the richness of textiles. Those were the folks and the sewers that I knew. So we started with one little sewing machine. It was like a used sewing machine in a room about half the size. And this is the size of a closet, so you can imagine. But I think there was just a lot of appetite, just as we're seeing with your conversations here, about people wanting more, wanting to have, just like they do with their food, wanting to have more of a relationship with their garments. And so we went from one sewing machine, and now we're at 10 years, we've bought this plant. We're in 30,000 square feet. We have about 70 workers, and we're just being really selective about who we work with. We don't just want to make anything. We want to make the right things with the right processes and be sure that that is rooted in our community. So from that, we've also built out the Carolina Textile District, which is a network of small producers like TS Designs that are working together to rebuild our value chains. And then we built out a 501c3 to try to help incubate more and more companies like Opportunity Threads, so we can have hundreds of people working in the cooperative economy. And one of those, for example, is the company that we talked about, Material Return, that is helping to drive the pickup and the processing for our circularity. And I'd be happy to turn it over to Walter if you want him to share a little bit of his story. Y'all just direct us as we're here.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is something I wanted to ask about. So Walter, tell us a little bit about your history in the textile industry and how you came to be a part of Opportunity Threads.
Yeah. I mean, I came in at the age of 15. This was back in 1997. And then it's just interesting because I came in California, worked there as a sewer. And when I was back in, I was going to school, and then found a sewing factory. And then I used to have a brother who used to live in Morganton, and that's how I ended up in Morganton. And then in 2000, life was very tough for me because it was just hard to find a job, and then found a job at the fast food restaurant, and then worked the chicken plant processing. It was just too hard, working a lot of hours and not making enough money to support my family. So yeah, and then 2010, 2011, I'm sorry, heard about Opportunity Threads, and applied the same day I was hired, because I guess I had experience in sewing back in my home country in Guatemala. My brother had a sewing shop where we used to sew these button-down T-shirts. I was 9 back then, and that's how I started learning how to sew. And then thanks to Molly, she hired me that day, and then since then I was here. That's how I learned. I didn't know what was a cooperative is until Molly talked to me about it. So since then my life changed, and then I was able to quit. I was working 3 jobs, and I quit those 2 jobs, so I was able to spend more time with my family, and to have just 1 job instead of have 3 jobs, just 1. So that's kind of the story that I have.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And that actually is a great transition into my next question, which is, can you tell us a little more about what it means to work for a worker-owned company?
Yeah, I mean, it's so, I always talk about this because I just mentioned that I used to work at a chicken plant processing. It was a hard job. It was a hard job. So working in a place like Opportunity Threads, I would say it's unique because, I mean, a place where you could be treated fairly, with dignity, a place where you can have a voice, where you can become an owner. So that's something that, I mean, you can't find it, anywhere. So it's just how we treat people, how people, with lots of benefits, and given the opportunity to someone that can become an owner is just, I mean, it's just so amazing that I'm so excited. I mean, I would say I'm so blessed to work here because, I mean, there's no other place that would, do this through any employee.
Thank you. And just so folks who are tuning in know, how does the structure of the cooperative work? How does someone become an owner?
Yeah, Molly can help me with this question. Yeah.
I think there's the heart of ownership, and then there's the legal pieces of it. I'm happy to, Walter's really good at that too. And it really, it depends by state. I'm not sure where folks are tuning in on. North Carolina, actually, because most of our cooperative law is based on cooperative structures of like the 30s. A lot of this is outdated. So many of how we're formed as an LLC, and people come in as members to the LLC over time. And right now we're kind of building out different tiers. So we really consider everybody here as part of the cooperative because they have voice, they have, we're paying out profits. By the time you walk in the door and you've been here for a certain amount of time, you're participating in the cooperative. And then over time, people become legal members of the LLC and then of the board. And so that's, structurally over time, that's how it happens. Would you add anything, Walter, to that?
Yeah, I think you just said it right. That's how we.
Yeah, thank you. It's such an uncommon way for businesses to work and such an interesting possibility for how they can.
I would say it's uncommon in the US. I was on a call this morning and I know I was Eric was worried,
Interesting.
I'm going to get here. I am going to get here, but I think more and more we need to look to more global models. So there's whole regions of the Italian economy that are organized, the Spanish economy. I was on with somebody that was from South Africa. I think, in fact, the US is actually really far behind in creative business models. I think we think of like entrepreneurship as just this one person, and this one person gets rich and everyone else works for them. And actually, that's not good for people or the planet, or actually for businesses and their resiliency. So I think this is actually a model that's out there a lot, and people are getting creative and finding new creative ways to do this and share ownership, because, you know, I can leave this plant while I still have a piece of ownership. I can leave this plant and go start the next cooperative, because I know this is in really good hands, and really cooperatives are out there to help start other cooperatives and get the model more and more and more out into our community and really solve that problems of economic, disparity, and solve the problems of, environmental issues, and create really strong jobs for people and keep that wealth here. What we don't want to happen is what happened to our communities when I was growing up, is there's an economic downturn and then all the companies leave. But when that wealth is rooted in the communities, it's shown that when there's an economic downturn, there's more resiliency in worker-owned companies. And we're also really excited to build out this whole line. If you look at the companies that we were showing you with Valdez Weavers, we can build out whole supply chains that are not only environmentally friendly, but that are also worker owned as well. And that's why we're excited to start pairing this opportunity with people that are also looking at worker ownership, or just they're really financially transparent. I know TS Designs, y'all are a B Corp, and I think that's phenomenal. So how do we, not just say we have this environmental imperative that I know that we're doing with the solid state program, but there's also this human imperative that walks alongside it. And I think that's part of this transparency. And that's why we're partnering with folks like TS Designs and Solid State.
Yeah, thank you. Sherry, if I'm saying your name right, has a comment where she says, I was raised in worker collectives in the 1990s in New York State. I think that's NYS. I was a worker owner with 2 whole grain bakeries. So that's amazing. Yeah. And, if you have any other perspectives on that, feel free to share that in the chat. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. So Molly, you touched a little bit about this philosophy behind opportunity threads of thinking about environmental sustainability and ethics as 2 sides of the same coin. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that plays out in a day-to-day way at Opportunity Threads?
Sure. I mean, if there's any hope for us as a species, right, on this planet, we've got to be good to this planet. We've got to be good to each other. And I think too often business sets us up as you have to make a choice. And I think what we're saying is no, the choice is actually to bind those 2 things together. That this is, and and we can also make good business decisions. So it really is, we can be profitable in the modest sense of profitability, not in the Amazon sense of profitability, but in the non-greedy sense of I think about profitability more as sustainability. How do we keep what's really good here that's putting millions of dollars into our economy and creating, lots of work for people? That's good. We need that to move forward. So our profitability drives our sustainability from a financial perspective. And then really saying we can make really good choices about the companies that we're working with. We want those to be folks that are not just making product to make. We don't want to make things just to make them. We want to make things that have a purpose. So we love the products like this, the solid state t-shirts that we know we'll be doing. That's really helping farmers here. It's really thinking about regenerative agriculture in a whole new perspective. We love products like the veggie bags that's going to help cut food waste down. There's all of the projects we're thinking about is less kind of the old mentality of well, what can we make and what can our machines make? We really think about who do we want to work with and who has our value set, who is driving a new consciousness of consumerism and really thinking about good products that will last and have end of life to them. And then who will also support our work so that we can create more and more economic opportunities here. There's
you can dig into a little bit more about Courtney, about Walter's story, but just the things that people have been able to do, purchase homes, go back to school, send children to college, just those whole things that help people leap these generational lines that have, marginalized them in the past. So we're not saying you have to choose people or you're having to choose the environment. We're actually saying the choice and the imperative for us moving forward in this world is to do both of those things and do them well.
Courtney, I got a question for Molly. So an interesting time that we're in, because this time last year we were getting ready to go through the lockdown phase. And we know the impact it had to our businesses, and we now are starting to see hopefully a positive light into the tunnel. As I said, getting our vaccines, the mask coming out soon. But curious, is there things that you, and this you too, Walter, things that you have a different perspective of going through COVID that that can have a positive impact on your business moving forward? We all know the negative side. We know that people got sick, some people lost people. We all know, but any positive thing you learned from COVID that you're trying to reflect in moving forward with your business?
Mm-hmm. So I can start, and then Walter, if you have other things, we can jump in there. I'll from a very so one thing was we are part of, and I know with TS Designs is part of it, and it's not a plug for the Carolina Textile Districts. It's just to say there's different ways of working, and we talk about being big by being small together, where you can manage your small shops, but then you can pull together on solutions. And I think we saw that because the Carolina Textile District helped to organize kind of an immediate response to masks and gowns. And then I think the biggest thing is not kind of how much they made, but they were able to pay out over $2 million to keep a lot of these small producers going through a time until they could come back online. So there were people that came to us and said, had we not had this project, the Carolina Textile District was able to orchestrate the back end of it, their companies would have probably shut down and maybe not even have come back online, or it would have been a struggle. So I think that whole idea of we call it, the whole idea of co-opetition, where you're cooperating, there is competition in the marketplace, but we're also putting this principle of working together, ahead of just survival. And so I think it's really important that this industry think about how it's going to remake itself together. And then I think we've just thought about just health and insurance. We developed a kind of an interesting program during that time where we do offer health benefits, and we pay, a large percentage of that, but some people are still I'm still not going to take the health insurance benefit. So we did some unique things of actually getting people enrolled and developing new programs through our hospital, because we knew that we needed because we worked pretty much the whole time, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We worked here, but we were the first company in our entire county to ask for proactive testing. And then we were able to get everybody kind of registered. So thinking about how you organize benefits became a new kind of way we started to think about things. And that really helped us when the vaccine rolled out, because everybody here that has wanted to be vaccinated has even received their second shot, because we were able to get people really well organized through the healthcare system. So I think it's again, kind of looking out for everyone. So I think we had a new take on reorganizing some of our benefits. And then I think we had a new take on just how important it is that this industry is linked together and doing projects just like this, right? To tell the story of really cooperation, and not just building out supply chains, but building out value chains. So supply chains that are based on values. Do you want to add anything?
I guess I can just add.
We'll do the mask switch. We are still masking up. So.
When last year in the pandemic, we had a few people out. I would say 10 to 15 people out. And then one thing that was, it was so impressed me, we would have to call them every day as a business. So, we would call them. I would call them personally, call them at home, make sure they're okay. They got paid. We would tell them, no worries, just stay home. There were a few people that they just asked us to stay home with their family, because they were they're just so worried that something happened to their children. And we would say, okay, yeah, just stay home. They will get paid. So that's probably something that, wow, I don't really know if the other companies would do that, but I would call them every day at home. They would text me, we're okay. Can we get another week? Okay, fine. So a few people had 3-4 weeks home. They got paid. So that's probably something I wanted to add that we did when the pandemic or last year.
Yeah, just that. I think Walter brings up, this industry is known really well for really high turnover. And we have been working with the Aspen Institute. Some of you all might know them, about like tracking our turnover. And we have some of the lowest turnover rates in their database for our industry, because I think it is that investment in people. And what's really great to tie that to production is not just that you do it for that, you do it because that's the right thing to do. But I think people are often saying you can't make the social case and the business case. But what's great when we're doing small batch runs, which is really where a lot of production, kind of like with solid state, is moving, although we're going to get it so it's much higher volume, is you want the same people doing that work each time, so the quality stays really consistent. And so that's what's so nice, is when you can, you know, help someone season a time of, like, you know, when normally people are being laid off, you can say like, no, we're going to keep paying you, we're going to keep paying you. So when you come back, then you're just like, you can gear up much more quickly. And the one other thing we did I thought was unique is we hired teachers during that time. And we worked with all the families, and there were teachers that went into the homes, and the co-op pay on that. Oh yeah, and Eric had to, well, we're always teaching. That's one of the principles of cooperatives, is teaching. So this is like our classroom. There's usually whiteboards, there's colored pencils, but we did hire teachers because we didn't want our students to fall behind. And so there were some teachers that were willing to actually go into people's homes during kind of the beginning of, before people could get online and before our schools could kind of figure out what they were doing. And we do a lot of work with K-12. That was something else that came out of our conversations this morning, that were like these global folks thinking about cooperative ecosystems, is how important it is to focus on a much younger generation. And we often think of this as the industry that's like aging out, and which I think I'm one of the oldest people here, and I'm in my 40s, and everybody's, you know, like, it's really neat to go out and see people that are in their 20s or 18 that want to be working here. And we do a lot. Before the pandemic, we do, every 8th grader in our county, this was one of their stops on the tour, and we always got really good feedback, that to the point where the kids were asking to come tour the cooperative. So that's good.
Well, thank you, Molly, because one thing I always like to say, because you're exactly right, the sewing industry is aging out. So we have to make sewing cool, a great place to work, great benefits, but again, and it sounds like myself, you went through that, the destruction of the apparel industry. I mean, you were on the front lines like myself, and you saw it just collapse in this global marketplace. But now having the opportunity to be in an area that the assets are here, and again, hats off and congratulations to the Carolina Textile District. I mean, to have that group of companies that came together in the time of COVID, and instead of shutting down, you're exactly right, TS Designs and working with Trotters, was able to pivot and produce a lot of masks. And thanks for, you know, your collaboration. Everyone never forget that call I was walking in a field on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon about masks, and you were the one that told me about using a die cut machine. I never thought about this. You know, you should be cutting those, you should be die cutting them. So next week we went out and bought this die cutter out of came from Brooklyn, New York, probably built back in the 50s. But it's having that collaboration and sharing of information instead of, you know, we're able to move very quickly. That's another thing about the district. What you're doing here is we can still collaborate, communicate, even the toughest times, because, you know, we're all in this area together. It's not different time zones and all that type of stuff. It's the strength of the group is so important. And we're just honored and excited working here. And again, we've got the solid state program now, and then hopefully soon we're going to have one of the first hemp cotton t-shirts ever produced. And again, we went back to those same values of, we could have easily brought in imported fiber from places like Asia or Eastern Europe and stuff like that. No, we took the hard path. We worked with the farmer in Kentucky to make sure we could grow it here. And the cotton is from North Carolina. Of course, we want to make it here. So it's I think people, and hopefully COVID's a wake-up call, that those local economies are going to be a lot more resilient in difficult times. And there will be something else in the future. Some, you know, hope it's not a pandemic, but a global disruption, something like that. So it's important to have that connection with you. So we're just, you know, honored and privileged to be able to connect with such great people that share that main thing, not only care about the community, the people, and the planet. And we think that does build a much, much more resilient community for everyone. Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, what y'all done here, again, I've known Molly for many years, and I've seen, you know, I've seen the different places you work in, and just congratulations on this place. This is, well, you already filled it up, but you finally have some space. You know, there were period of times you're kind of working on top of each other. Well, it's a good place to be.
Well, and it was neat because this plant was Action Sports. Maybe some of y'all that are in the industry know them. And Nand really, he didn't have a child to pass it on to. His boys were doing other things. And so it was so neat because we developed a relationship with him and worked with him. And he was a member kind of the network. And we finally said, can we buy it? And then there were a few sewers left over. Linda is still here. So she came along with us. So yeah. So we bought a lot of his equipment. So it's like that, what he put his life into, we could give life, and we still could connect with him. And in fact, we're going to buy the land beside us for an expansion. So it's like, just how can something that someone's put their life into give life to the next generation? And we'll hope to do that as we move along. So
he's excited.
Yeah, he was excited.
Right.
He saw his life's work go to, a new generation of folks. So that was really neat.
Big warehouse. Along the
Yeah,
highway.
exactly. Not another warehouse.
Yeah.
Oh, we've
But
got
we're
a couple.
excited. We feel really honored to work with y'all too. So go ahead, Courtney. I
I
apologize.
was gonna say, we got a couple questions from folks who are joining us. I'm gonna sort of work backwards. Devin says he's been covering the textile industry for many years, and I've been familiar with opportunity threads in the Carolina Textile District for a while now, but I'm not sure I have a full understanding of how they differ. Can you shed some light?
Sure. So great question. And unfortunately, like Eric Henry, we wear a lot of hats, and a lot of those hats fit on my head. And that's why I want y'all to see new faces like Walter. So Opportunity Threads is a cut and sew plant. It's kind of independent on its own. The Carolina Textile District is also, it's a network, it's a federation of small producers. So the Opportunity Threads is a member of the Carolina Textile District, just like TS Designs is a member of the Carolina Textile District. And the Carolina Textile District really has two arms. One of those is it just works with entrepreneurs to try to connect them to local production. And the other one is it has this robust membership. It's really different than just an association or a network because it's a governing member board. And, we're doing unique things. Like one thing right now we're trying to do is like build out a benefits pool, because we realize, there's a lot of need for small companies to have robust benefits. So think of Opportunity Threads as a producer, and the Carolina Textile District as a network, a federation, a cooperatively governed industry network, and Opportunity Threads is just a member of it. But I've helped with both of them.
Yeah, and I'll add that working in the world of people trying to rebuild regional textile production and industries, Carolina Textile District is an amazing model that is not that common across the country. I've talked to several people who reach out to me or Eric who say, like, how do we find a regional supply chain? You would think that people would just know about the textile businesses in their area, but they don't. And so, especially if you're a designer, you're being right. You're going to design school and you're usually taught, well, you're just going to find a supplier usually from overseas. And when you decide that you want to do something different, it's actually really difficult to figure out who those people are. So Carolina Textile District, one of the things you do that's so important is you're able to connect people with this whole network of businesses who are doing good things in this particular area. One more question from Amy. Thank you for being patient with this question, Amy. She asked it back when we were doing the tour. How much waste has Opportunity Threads kept from the landfill this year, or maybe last year, if that's where you have better numbers? Do you have numbers for that?
I love waste conversations. That's my favorite conversation. So we do work with material return, and they weigh every pound, and we usually keep out 5,000 pounds a week. And I know, so we produce, and thinking of, again, we're gonna selectively produce new things, and we're gonna do a lot of work to upcycle old things. And we do work with this really neat company, Project Repat, that's really mastered kind of upcycling. So we usually, the piles, I think the guys are due tomorrow. We have 2 to 3 waste pickups, raw material stream pickups every week. And we're on average keeping out about 5,000 to 7,000 pounds, depending if we have a spike in production every week. And we've done that for the last, I don't know, 8 years.
And how many companies, because we've recently become part of that network.
I could calculate that on my calculator.
How many companies are in that network now?
Yeah, you can go to their new website, and I can do a little pitch for them, the opportunity, the material return. You can go on their website, and they have, I think, over 20 different clients from Valdez Weavers. A lot, again, think of the network. So we're picking up with TS Designs, Trotters, all these folks that are our allies, Valdez Weavers, the people that you see on our cutting room floor. We want to provide them, again, that solution to their waste, because it is a huge input into, I think 12% of waste into landfills is textile waste. And then today we launched a really neat take back program with Smart Wool. So material return is going to be the take back for both post-consumer and post-production. And that's kind of the holy grail. Can you get your cut sew waste back? And then can you get your product post-consumer waste back? And that's what I would love to see for Solid State, is that we can build that end of life cycle. There's a problem with your shirt, you can get it back. We'll either get it made into a new one. There's some repair conversation there too. So I think we've really got to care for garments and then create end of life solutions for them, but know that all that waste will be given a new life.
And Sherry asks, so as a small apparel company, I should connect to the Carolina Textile District for building a regional supply chain?
Yes, that's great. They have a great series of classes, and we come and we tour, and you can come and tour. You can take all these classes. They're online, they're in modules. You can come and do one of their classes. You can kind of meet everybody. We really feel like often those designers, the first thing they do is they call like the cut and sew or the dye house. That's actually like the last thing you should do. We try to educate people much further upstream. So when you do call on those folks, you know the right questions to ask and you can get in their door. So that's a great place to start. And we really believe in like educating and really knowing what you want and who you want to be working with. And then you might end up with us if we're the best producer, but depending upon what you're making, again, that's why it's so exciting. We have this whole network of people. You might end up with one of the other great producers in our network, but that's a great place to start.
And Rosalinda has a question. Given the strong textile presence in North Carolina, I was surprised to learn that Durham is the only county that has a sweatshop policy, or an anti-sweatshop policy, I assume. What are your thoughts on the need for those policies to exist in North Carolina and the US as a whole?
No, I think that's great. Go Durham. Like there's kind of like, there's the red part of North Carolina and there's the blue part of North Carolina. Well, we live in the red part of North Carolina. So, Alamance County, we know how y'all roll too. So I think you're exactly right. I mean, I ought to call, I think in a few weeks, I think there's this push to get like a fashion czar, just like there's a climate czar. So I think how does good practice start to lead more to policy? I think you're exactly right, Rosalinda. And I think what we've always found is like, first you have to measure things and then you have to build praxis or practice of what good policy does look like and how it can live. And then I think you have to, put out good policy. We feel like as much as there needs to be good labor policy, we think the fight for 15 is actually a really good one. And like to start with wages. And then we also think the environmental imperative can be really, really important too. Like and that's when we've studied other models globally, when a lot of that has gone from just like doing the right thing to real change, or more kind of impactful changes when that policy has been put in place. And honestly, there's not a lot of policy right now around kind of the circular economy. So is that a good thing? We're trying to kind of get our foot in the door with some of the conversations with some of the larger brands we're working on. But I would say, yes, policy definitely from a labor perspective and also from an environmental input perspective. And I think that's why so important, like cotton, the natural fibers, the regenerative fibers, also keeping a lot of those synthetics and the finishes and things out of against your body and out of the supply chain. And I think that's, again, what's so brilliant about what TS Designs is doing is their really environmental integrity around the dye and printing process. So.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
And Amy has one follow-up question on the recycling, maybe for Eric, which is how much has TS Designs been able to save from the landfill by working with material return?
Well, as Molly said earlier, they weigh it when they come, so I don't have that information here in front of me, but that was a critical part when we made that. It was, I guess, a timing too, Molly and Walker, is we made that pivot to making masks, which I have on today, upcycling our irregular t-shirts. That's when we reached out to basically, let's make sure as we cut these things out, we don't throw that waste away. And that's, that's a twofold thing. There's nothing illegal about taking that waste to the dump. That's not illegal. It's the same thing. It's not illegal if you're paying somebody $7.25. That's the minimum wage. It's just not the right thing to do. So, but I think they come every other week, Amy, or something like that. And we have the Gaylords. And it's the cool thing about it, how it just kind of spreads, working with another company out of Winston-Salem, that she's in the bandana business, which we're dyeing her bandanas, going to be making her bandanas. But the thing about it, she was coming down to use our die cut machine. I said, well, this right here is which we set it right there, is where the waste goes. So, I mean, it was just a natural connection. She was already making the product here. It was an easy, I won't say sale, but you know, just a connection. So again, it's building that community of like-minded people. It's about the community being successful, not about Molly being successful, or how we all can come together to be successful. So, I mean, it's just exciting to do that. And again, I'm hoping that's the silver lining of COVID is understanding the strength of our communities and why they're so important during those tough times, because we all challenge getting things that came from faraway places, but having the strength of your community to work with. So again, we're just in the right place, and to connect those dots. And again, thank you so much for what y'all do here and the values you bring to the table. We're just excited about continuing to grow it because we're in the right place to do this.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
North Carolina, it is. And then the one other piece I think was so interesting too is the research and development that we have. And I think that's gone a lot into this building out this circular piece, and really like recycling your white textile waste should be the last thing you do. And I love that. That's why I think we were hitting when you were in that cotton field. I remember that day. It's like, you got to cut a lot more efficiently. So you want to start with first like getting raw materials that have a lot of integrity, trying to cut with as much zero waste as you possibly can. And then when you have that, and then repairing and caring for whatever garment you have or whatever it is you're making. And I think there needs to be a lot more education on how we care for things, our garments, and repairing when you can, and then having end of life solutions, and then at the very end, recycling what you need. So there's a whole life cycle even before getting there. But I think you're right. North Carolina is so unique, and I think we're really coming into our renaissance of not bringing work back like it was, in the 80s, but really bringing it back with this new emphasis on people and this environmental imperative to it. And we are really lucky to have a lot of research and development facilities here. That's how we've been able to build out this whole new carding line that we will have to be able to make yarn on the other side of all this waste that we're picking up from our community, thinking it was like a big compost pile and it can go back to everybody's gardens. That's how I like to think about it. But between the Manufacturing Solutions Center and the Gadsden Textile Technology Center, we really have, if we're going to get out there and be able to scale and, lift up new and developing brands like Solid State and other brands like the partnership we now have with Smart Wool, we need that ability to really understand how we get these products back onto the market that have a lot of functionality. So I think it's also really unique that in this region, not only do we have all these years and all this infrastructure and all these people with this knowledge, but we also have these really deep research and development facilities that are driving this as well. So.
Great, thank you so much. So we're actually a little past time. This is such a great conversation. I feel like I could listen to you all and discuss this for another hour, but we're being mindful of everyone else's time. This is such a wonderful conversation, and thank you, Walter and Molly, so much. I feel like Opportunity Threads is one of the solutions to the problems that so many people are finding in the fashion industry. And it's wonderful to see that there are already places that exist that are doing things better and really providing alternatives to an unsustainable fashion industry. So I'm just going to do a quick wrap up for everybody. So thank you to everyone who's been attending. Next month, we're going to be doing our final step of the harvest on May 12th, and we're going to be at TS Designs in Burlington, where you'll see how our t-shirts are dyed. All of TS Designs t-shirts are garment dyed. So they start out as white t-shirts, and then the very last step is they get turned into a color. You can learn more about the 10,000 Pounds of Cotton project at solidstate.clothing. And if you are a brand or a business who's interested in custom printing or private label of 10,000 pounds of cotton t-shirts, you can visit tsdesigns.com or reach out to Eric at tsdesigns.com. And please follow along with this project and our other work by following TS Designs and Solid State Clothing on Instagram and Facebook, and signing up for our email lists. And Opportunity Threads is on, I know you're on Instagram at the very least, so you should follow them as well. And I believe that is all.